Okay, we'll call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
So that comes on first, so we can all see what we're gonna do. It'd make the night go a lot faster, it'd be a lot easier.
I wish I could.
Okay, Marie, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Nelson?
Here.
Councilman Beck? Here. Councilwoman Campbell? Here. Councilman Hutchins?
Here.
Mayor James?
Here. Okay, moving on to approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to approval of the minutes from the October 18th meeting.
So those.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to approval of the bills. Is there a motion to approve deposits in the amount of $453,575.84?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, doesn't look like there's any accounts payable. Is there a motion to approve payroll in the amount of $46,971.16?
I have one question on that before. I'll second Ron's motion for discussion. Partway down the page, there's an item with the second description supplemental. Larger than typically seen number for bi-weekly payroll.
That's a termination, Chair.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, is there a motion to approve transmittals in the amount of $32,087.61?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to correspondence, starting with the Platte Valley Aquatic feasibility study. Nick, you want to come on down?
Sure. I don't know if I just try to plug this in. Yeah, is that all right?
Yeah.
That's it. Oh, yeah. We can, here, that's gonna be awkward. Here, I'll just go.
Let me go.
No, it's right here.
Okay.
Yeah. You guys have the printouts, right?
Yes.
So sorry it's long. I was gonna try to put it up on the screen so that we can kind of thumb through some stuff together, but I'll just talk about it, and you have the full copy if you need it. About a year ago, I came and told you guys I was going to try to put together a swimming pool project. Remember that? Been working on it. I did not go away. So we raised over $35,000 from 71 different donors to pay for the preliminary design and quote unquote feasibility study that is associated with this project. The money's been spent, hopefully put to good use. And the package we have, the printout with the nice color image on the front of it is the result of that. There are 7 sections to it. The first section is just sort of an executive summary that talks about the proposal, what we would like to move forward. And the concept is that we would form a new nonprofit entity, which would own and operate this recreation facility, but also take over recreational services from the town of Saratoga generally, as well as provide them for the town of Encampment, Platte Valley, the whole Platte Valley. So that's the summary. Section 2 and Section 3 comprise the public outreach efforts that we did. We held a couple of community meetings. We sat down and asked people what they wanted. We conducted an online survey. The results of that survey are in here. And we allowed the feedback from the community to drive the design. What do people want? And that's what we figured out. And that is what was built into the design options that are here. Section 4 is the site studies of where to put this thing. And that's really what I'm hoping to accomplish today, as I'm here today to ask the town for a lease on the site that the group has selected. So we'll come back to that. But section 5 gets in with the design. So it's, I don't know, it's, there's this, it's page 33. They're not numbered, are they? We should fix that. The site plan showing the layout over top of an aerial image is what I'm looking at here. It's like the second page behind section 5. You guys all find what I'm talking about? So this is the site that the group has selected. We proposed a site next to the hot springs, and then we proposed like 4 different sites up around the high school. The survey came back, the majority of votes, if that's what you want to call it, people selected the site by the hot springs. However, if you added up all the 4 sites up by the high school, the vast majority of people preferred that location. We have settled on a location in between, on Elm and 7th Street, in between the library and the high school. And that's what's depicted here. So some of you may know that's where you're going uphill Elm Street there. So the upper parking lot that's shown there would be at the grade of the high school. The parking lot closer to the library would be down at the grade of the library. So there's a grade difference in those 2 parking areas there. And this facility would be built into the hillside. You go to the next option, the next slide, that shows option A. The estimated construction cost for this option is $12.4 million approximately, 12.5 roughly. So this includes a single body of water. You've got your leisure pool, lazy river, water slide, and then a lap with 3 lanes, and it's all one body of water. If you go to the next slide, this shows option A plus. The estimated construction cost of this version is approximately $15.9 million. The key difference between these 2 versions is the separate competitive lap pool as well as the spectator seating. There's also a second entrance up on the upgrade side, which would be the high school side. The concept being you could use that upper parking lot for event parking and swim meets and all that. And high school could use that entrance without having to go through the main lobby and all that. So those are the 2 options that we have in front of us. If you go to the next slide, you'll see an interior rendering. So you are standing with your back to the leisure pool in this picture looking west, like at the high school. And so what you see here is the competitive lap pool. You see the spectator seating, and you can kind of see the entrance that would come from the high school side. If you go to the next slide, this is the same location. You just turned around and now you're looking east towards the library, and you see the leisure side. This is the A plus option. The next slide shows a rendering of the front of the building. This is looking west. So this would be the eastward facing side. So the next slide goes on to show the cost estimates. Section 6 cost estimates, which I just summarized for you guys. Section 7 is really the most important part of this whole deal. So the design and the preliminary layout is one thing, but section 7 begins the operational plan. It's like a 66-page document where we undertook a market assessment, identified the service area, the population within that service area, the median income, the number of people, the number of households, the number of families, took all the demographic information, and compared it as to whether it made sense to do this project, and ultimately came up with, here's what it's going to cost to run it. And you guys have a copy of this. I'm not going to go through it in detail, but I will call your attention toward the back. There are page numbers on this. So if you go to page 51, this is the beginning of the operations plan. So from 51 forward is all the actual dollar figures. And you can see option 1 and option 2, that should have been option A and option A plus. So the key here is this is showing us how much it costs to run these facilities. So option 1 would be $655,000 a year. Option 2 would be $818,000 a year. The next line down shows the projected revenues, and then the difference there in parentheses is how much money we got to come up with to run these things. Does that all make sense?
Well, I didn't want to interrupt you, but
Please, if you have a question.
are you going to talk about what the plan is?
That's what I'm getting to. So the plan is this. This is an expensive idea, right? My plan is to try to come up with $16 million to build the A plus option and then try to come up with $610,000 a year to run it. Now, I'm hoping that I can do this without having to get into your guys' pocket very far. I hope to get in at least as deep as your existing budget. So the concept is this. We would totally fundraise the capital construction 100%, raised entirely by private donations. I already have a commitment from one major donor who's agreed to pay to match up to 1/3 of the total project cost, including capital construction as well as any endowment we might raise. So that's a pretty hefty swing. We have another donor that's committed to $2 million towards the capital construction side. So with those two donors, I'm already to like $7-8 million, depending on which version of the project you look at. Now the operations, it's one thing to raise $16 million to build it. It's quite another to run it. Currently, the town council's existing budget is just under $225,000 between the rec department and the pool budgets combined. I think that's right, 223, something like that. So my proposal is going to be, it's not what I'm here asking for tonight, but my proposal is going to be that the town of Saratoga commit that money to this new nonprofit entity and effectively privatize recreation services for the town of Saratoga. This new entity will provide all the same rec services you have now, as well as operate this facility. That's only $225,000. I still got $400 to go, but I'm going to go ask the town of encampment to kick in. I'm going to ask the school board to kick in. I'm going to ask the rec board, school rec board to potentially kick in. And I also intend to raise an endowment to fill this gap. So I'm not asking the town to come up with a bunch of extra money to run it. But what I am asking the town to do is to provide the site, the location for it, which is really why I'm here tonight. And to consider my ask of effectively rolling up, closing down the Saratoga Rec Department, and we would take your rec department over and have it become this new nonprofit entity. That's the concept. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. I have prepared a proposed lease form. This lease is based on a deal that's going on up in Casper right now, the McMurray Foundation. I don't know if you guys have seen this in the news. They're getting ready to build what they're calling the YO Sports Ranch up next to the event center up there. It's a $40 million project, but it's very similar to this. The town owns the ground. A nonprofit is coming to the town with a bunch of money saying, we want to make this happen. Town of Casper said, okay, we'll lease you the ground. So I took their lease. They just finalized it last week, talked to the city attorneys up in Casper. Said they have like 200 hours plus in negotiating this agreement with McMurray Foundation. Thought it would be a good place to start. I went through it and kind of pared it back some, tried to shrink it. It's like 34 pages or something, which is beyond my taste for such agreements. But nonetheless, I think with a 50 or 100-year deal with a public entity, we need to make sure that it's solid. So I have prepared a proposed agreement. I don't expect the town council to say, sure, we'll lease your ground for 150 years. Tonight, but I'm hoping that perhaps the council would entertain a motion to authorize staff and council to review this lease with me with the goal of getting it done before the end of this year. The other thing I'll say, the lease has, the way it's currently drafted, and it's certainly open to negotiation discussion, it's just a model to start from. But there are benchmarks in it. So it's a 50-year lease with the 2 50-year renewal terms. If the lease doesn't renew, the facility would be 100% become owned by the town of Saratoga. In the meantime, on the front end, there's benchmarks. So we have to commence construction within 12 months of receiving all permits and approvals for the project. We have to complete it within 48 months. So there's some built-in benchmarks that it's gonna push the project along. And if it doesn't, lease terminates, we pull the plug and walk.
I'll make a motion to take this proposed ground lease agreement between the town of Saratoga and the Aquatic Center to the town attorney to review and make comments before we make any decisions on.
I'd second that. I think it's a great place to start.
Okay.
I have a question though.
Sure.
I'm looking through on one of your pages there during, when they figured up the expenses.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, this not supposed to open until 2025. I read the whole thing today, but one of them, wage rates, had said that basing it on $12 an hour on one of the lines, and that doesn't seem, well, I know the trouble we have trying to get employees here. And, the old saying, build it and they will come. Well, they don't right now. And
Right.
so my concern is that your expenses are under projected. And take another look at that, because wages on the one page, wages are
I thought
$500,000 just
Yeah.
wages, right?
the largest expense of operating it is wages.
Right, and so if that goes up 20%, I mean, that's a big bump.
Substantial change. I agree.
So I would take a hard look at that, that being one of your biggest expenses, because I don't think, well, Sarah's right there. You can ask her how easy it is to get people.
Right. So I thought the lowest hourly wage we had in here was 13 an hour, which I don't know if that's much.
That was on page 6, I think.
13, yeah. And I think these rates were, the consultant talked to Sarah about what we're paying people now through the rec department and that sort of thing. I totally agree with you. And the donor, the person who's agreed to fund up to a third of this is not going to fund any of it unless it's airtight. So
Yeah.
the owner of the Silver Spur Ranch, so Silver Spur Ranches is the one that's behind this third, this match of up to a third. And in the conversations I've had with the owner of the ranch, he wants to make sure this thing is bulletproof. So there are contingencies built in on the construction side, but I'm not so sure that they're built in the same way on the operations side. And I think that's a fair point. As if and when we move this forward, all of these are based on assumptions. So the more real this project gets, the more the assumptions start to go away. We can plug in real numbers. But I don't disagree with you. I mean, we got to pay a competitive wage.
And so the other thing that you talked about in this meeting was if anything happens, it reverts back to the town.
Ownership, if the lease term.
Ownership of it, right. And so if we do this and can't make up the shortfall between the revenue recovery or excuse me, the expenses on the revenue, if we can't make up that difference, the town inherits a pretty good mess, right? Then the town would end up either shutting the place down or having to come up with that delta,
Right.
which that's a lot of risk to put on the town. So maybe look at that a little better and see if there's a way to tighten that up a little bit.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. You'll see when you get into the lease that the ways in which the lease terminates, it's either like after the 50 years or we failed in a big way, but there's like security along the way, bonding and performance requirements and that sort of thing that's meant to address that. But there's certainly some risk associated with any project. This is one, I've lived here 5 years now, and the entire time I've been here, everybody's been complaining about the lack of this kind of facility. 2016, strengths and weaknesses analysis that's in the Saratoga master plan specifically identifies lack of indoor recreation opportunities as a major weakness of this community. So this is intended to address that. And it's just going to be, there are risks. If I have my way, I'll raise $20 million, take 8 of it and put it in an endowment that throws off 4% a year and solves this problem. That's really the model. Whether I can raise that much remains to be seen. But for now, my plan is to raise 100% of the capital costs, try to raise as much on the operations side as I can by public-private partnerships with school districts and all the towns and get it done. But
I hope you do. I'll dust off my Speedo and come down there.
all right, looking forward to it. Can I answer any other questions for any of you?
Yeah, I just have some thoughts. The motion on the table is to send the lease to the attorney.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I was gonna address that. So we're gonna motion and second, all in favor of that.
Aye.
I think from my perspective, the land, the lease itself is the much more simple and straightforward component of it. You've done your due diligence, you've surveyed the community. I think that was a well-done process from what I saw of it, and I participated in it myself. I think that's a good use for that site personally. And I think the input has been given for utilizing that way. And so I don't have really any objection in moving forward with the lease. Starting with having the attorney review what's proposed here. The second part of it is really hand in hand. I mean, they're not mutually exclusive. The idea that the town will be committing a substantial amount of money to this idea for perpetuity, essentially, at least 50 years, right? I think that's something that we need to, I feel like I need to hear more from our constituents about that. I support it. Let me say that clearly on the front end. I think it is an opportunity to, number one, offer some more programming and obviously have a better facility for what we're spending the money for. And probably eliminate some bureaucracy, create some economies of scale, all these kinds of things, especially when we're pulling resources with neighboring communities and school district potentially. So I see a lot of benefits, but I think that's a big enough change with a long-term enough impact that we ought to wade more carefully into that. But if the first step to this is giving you and your organization some assurance that that site is something to move forward with and the town's on board with it, I think this is where we start. And I just add, thank you for all your work.
Oh, I appreciate it.
And thanks to Mr. Malone for his generosity and whoever else you have.
I hope we make him write that check. That one comment I'll make, if you look at the back of the lease, I did a screenshot of we don't have a surveyed land description out yet. It's approximately 5 acres that we're asking for. You will notice the library, some of you may know this, some of you may not. The parcel that the library sits on is actually the entire street frontage of Elm Street all the way up to 7th. It's a weird shaped parcel. If you look at our site plan, the architects just put the design right. It would cover both parcels. We're asking to lease behind that parcel. The county owns it, but the county received that parcel from the school district. And in the deed from the school district to the county, there's a possibility of reverter. Says if the county ever uses it for anything other than a library, it goes back to the school district. So I'll sort all that out later. You guys don't have to worry about it. I'm just mentioning it now that's why the lease is set back from the road. I'm gonna go to the county and the school district and sort that out later. We'd probably just get an easement or something across it so that we can improve it and just leave it in county ownership, but get a driveway across it. And some dirt work and grading will need to be done there and all that, so.
Even if the building itself doesn't encroach on that parcel, it's still, I think,
We want it to be the front entrance because that's the point of having an Elm Street frontage. So.
it's great.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Echo John's deal. Like I said, it's amazing the work you guys have put into this. And like I said, I hope it works out. I mean, it's something
Me
that,
too. I mean, here's hoping. The dream was always, let's see if we can put together the money and make it happen without costing anybody any more money that doesn't want to donate. We're way further than I thought we would be a year ago. So we'll see. I got a couple of other good leads on some good donors. So hopefully by the time I come back next month and we talk about the lease, I'll have good news to report on that front. So any other questions for me?
Thanks for your work.
Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. Thanks, Nick.
Okay, next up under correspondence is the WAM Region 6 meeting. It is on next Monday at 7 o'clock, or next Monday, the 7th, from 5 to 6:30 at Town Hall in Sinclair. They'll have a virtual Zoom option available as well, if anyone wants to attend that.
Rec board meeting that night.
Okay. Next up is the CCVC Open House on November 10th from 5 to 7 at 105 East Cedar and Rollins. Says join the Carbon County Visitors Council as they celebrate moving into their new location, now ideally situated on Cedar Street, the Lincoln Highway, and the Continental Divide Trail. So that'll be, like I said, November 10th. Next up after that is the Wyoming Cost of Living Index for the second quarter of 2022. Everyone gets a chance to look at that. All items, statewide inflation's at 10.1%. This is the highest inflation has been since the third quarter of 1981, which was 11.8%. I said I had just a chance to kind of thumb through it, but quite a bit of interesting information in there. Next up is the 2023 Wyoming Community Gas Grant. It reads, good afternoon. Attached you will find information on the 2023 Wyoming Community Grants Program sponsored by Wyoming Community Gas. We encourage you to forward this information on to others to be able to apply for the grant. We also ask that you help inform organizations in your community of this opportunity. If you have any questions, please call me at 888-527-0003. Sincerely, Natalie Flood, the Senior Business Development Manager. I think this is for grant opportunities through Wyoming Community Gas, and it's not just, I don't believe it's just for the town. I believe it's for governmental entities and agencies, organizations exempt from federal tax under sections 501c3 or 501c6 of the IRS code. So it's not just for towns and whatnot, it's for nonprofits. So that information, Ray, will you have that on the website, or can we get that posted to the website in case any organizations want to take a look? Okay, was there any other correspondence? Okay, moving on to items from the public. Okay, no items from the public. Moving on to council comments. Any comments from the council?
I have one.
I have one too, but go ahead, John, go ahead.
Sure. Okay. I was reminded that a year ago, that was our first meeting in November 2021, a year ago tomorrow, we passed ordinance 2021-04, which said that the town of Saratoga was not going to use anyone's immunization status as a basis for employment. Without certainly rehashing that political issue, I just wanted to note that a year later, here we are, and I'm seeing stories of Supreme Court of New York ordered the city of New York to rehire all the people that were terminated because they refused with back pay. Other states are doing similar things, rehiring, being forced to rehire. And it just made me think, we don't always get it right. We get it wrong sometimes too, but hopefully we get things right more than we get it wrong. And a lot of times it takes some time to see the results of the things we're trying to accomplish and the decisions we make. So I don't know, I may have some more thoughts on that, or be pontificating a little bit more at our next meeting as we kind of get close to the end of the term, but I just wanted to point that out. That was I think a good thing we did, and I think at least that one we can prove it right on, so. Anyway, that's all I got.
My comment would be, we got word today from the Wyoming Department of Audit, Public Funds Division, that town of Saratoga is in complete compliance. And because of that, congratulations to Georgia and Marie for 100% top rating on the Spring Street project. Good work.
Yeah, let's take a minute on that. So the SLIB application process for the ARPA funds was very competitive. I think some of you may know all the details, but it's worth noting, 113 applicants statewide. Saratoga scored the highest out of everybody with 4 points. Monumental effort. Those applications are tough. This one was just the same. And so, it's just more good news, we'll have those funds to dedicate to the Spring Street project. We also got, word, is that in further on the agenda, the YDOT?
When you started talking about that, I just started thinking about that and I didn't see that on there,
I
no.
think I missed that one.
Let's just take a minute here during council comments, I guess. The efforts that staff and specifically outside of town hall, McCall Bureau put into pursuing the TAPS program grant funding for transportation master plan for the town was successful. We received notification that we'll get that grant, which will allow the town to pursue more paths, trails, other opportunities for state funding for things like that. If you recall, that was kind of born out of a request to get some funding for a path to connect downtown to the grocery store. Just because we all see so many people walking right along the edge of the shoulder there. It's a danger. And so we were in the process of trying to pursue some funds for constructing something like that. And YDOT basically said, we really would like to fund a project like this, but you need to go through the process of having a master plan and having, some of these corridors and needs identified more formally. We said, that's great, but, we don't have $200,000 sitting around for another study. And they said, well, let us help you fund the study. And so that's something that will take place over the next year, certainly. But we're one step closer to having something that I think is a real benefit to the town. So hats off to everybody who's worked on all that stuff and bringing more money into Saratoga and the Valley.
Mm-hmm. Anything else for council comments? Okay, move on to reports from departments, starting with town hall. Department report.
So I believe I put in your packet, the link for the new website. That's where we need to look at it because they're going to start transferring everything over. It has been taking a lot longer than we thought to clean up our current website. It is quite a maze. There's a lot of hidden information in there. I don't mean hidden, but I mean, it is difficult to find a path to reach to some pages. So that's been a little bit of a challenge. And then last week I went to a Brownsfield workshop and I would love to sit down and talk about some grants that are available to clean up and address some of the abandoned buildings that we have in town, specifically town-owned buildings. These grants would cover total cleanup. It would cover if we wanted to demolish a building, it would cover that. So these are some things that we should look into, I believe. And then the rest of the things on my report is stuff that we did in the last 2 weeks. But I want to say one thing that I kind of want to point out was something that we're going to have to bring up to the Joint Powers Board is the $10 late fee that we started enacting on the utility billing. That total $10 has been going to the water fund. It's not split. And so I think the original intent to enacting that $10 late fee was for admin costs. But I think it's just something to discuss that we have to figure out how to appropriate it.
Will you be available for that Joint Powers Board meeting, or do you want to give me a little more info before
Yes,
next Wednesday?
I think I'm available, but I will check.
If not, I'm not asking you to make time in your busy schedule to have, so if you can't, then just let me know what I need to discuss with them a little more specifically, and I'll take it.
And then I just sent in all the liquor license renewals, and the notice to the newspaper to publish. So the public hearing will be at the next meeting at 5:30 PM, and I will try and remind everyone that day.
Marie, back on that other note, if you have a recommendation for that too, if you think it needs to get split 50-50 between water and sewer, or if it is goes to the administrator, whatever it is, I guess be prepared to make that recommendation too.
Sure. And then I have reports that we've printed too on how much money has been coming in already from those late fees.
Okay.
Okay, I will have that ready for you for next Wednesday.
Thanks.
And then the last thing on my report was the electricity has been going out in parts of town hall. I need to purchase battery backups for our computers because I lost my minutes because of the electricity going out. So we might have to look into the panel and maybe updating that because I believe it's the same age as the building too. That's it.
Okay.
One question, George, did Stuart show up and help out with you, or have you availed yourself of his services yet, or?
Yes, he came for a day last week, for the Friday before. He came for a day, took a pile of stuff back to his office to work on it remotely.
When do we expect to circle back with him?
I did reach out to him today and left a message. I haven't heard. I think Georgia sent him information to get, there was some stuff for the May reconciliation. But he took stuff to continue to move forward to try to get us caught up, so.
Last week, I sent him information for June as well.
So I do have a call into him. I'll see how things are going. So,
The question was asked of me by a citizen, resident, you know, what specifically is the hurdle that's, you know, what is taking so long with the reconciliations? I said, I certainly am not involved in enough detail to know. But I think maybe that feedback after he's done or whatever would just be helpful in answering that question or any curiosities like that.
okay. Okay, moving on to the Carbon County Senior Services Agreement. So if you recall from our last meeting, there was a question about the gas card at the senior center. Looks like they provide kind of their monthly newsletter, whatnot. I talked to Jane about it, and this is very similar, I think, to the one we had with the museum from a year ago. I think the biggest thing, I emailed it to everyone to kind of look at, I think, but I think the biggest thing is there is just kind of filling out an amount, you know, that we want to make payable to the senior center to kind of help offset their costs for gas or whatnot.
Did we figure out what that gas card was getting? You did send out a report on that. Can you refresh my memory what the annual total was on that?
I believe last year it was around $900, and maybe the year before it was around 600 something. And then from this month to the start of our fiscal year was about $900 something.
Because they were
Don't know
using it
about
to go to that,
Because gas is so expensive now,
right, and
and because they were going to Laramie.
right.
So the idea is to make it a fixed amount of money and they spend it as they see fit.
That was my thought,
Yeah,
yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, that way it's known for budgets. It's not a variable, and B, it's not a fuss. They can use it how they see fit, so. So now the complicated question is, if we were to make a motion tonight to appropriate, let's just say $1,000 a year. This is obviously not something that we had budgeted specifically. However, we were obviously carrying money for that gas card that was, I assume, budgeted somewhere based on historical usage. So to say that it wasn't in the budget somewhere would be a little misleading. It was, it just wasn't specifically itemized, right? So again, this is the complicated question. Do we know where the monthly costs for paying that gas card were hitting? Where would we take money out of to segregate it specifically for this agreement? And maybe that's not an answer we have tonight, because I acknowledge it's a complicated question.
And I was just looking through the budget. Under town hall, we did have the senior center and the library, and we did have, I think, $500 budgeted there, which I assume is probably the line item that the gas card was hitting. Possibly. Just trying to see if there was any other spots where it might have been hidden, but that was one I'd seen after we talked about it at the last meeting, where I saw it hitting the budget. But I don't know, or I haven't had a chance to go through and look at all the different departments to see. I assume it was under town hall, but I don't know for sure.
How about this as a way to move forward through the remainder of this fiscal year? This agreement states that the term of services is November 1st, 2022 through October 31st, 2023. So a full calendar year. What if we were to change that to end June 30th, 2023? Appropriate that dollar amount for that remaining period, which is in the budget. And then with the recommendation to future council that during next year's budget workshop, it be changed for a full calendar year term to match the fiscal year with a full $1,000.
Have we already tapped that budget, the $500? How much is left in there? None?
We're backwards 400 if we've already spent 900 this year.
This fiscal year.
Is that, I assume that's the line item it's in
Yes,
the senior center / library.
yes.
I'm still gonna make that my motion.
I think it's a good motion.
My
I'm
mo-
just finding the budget for it.
Yeah, my motion is that we amend the service agreement for the period November 1st through June 30th, 2023. And then we allocate $500 as the payment for services for that period.
That's your motion? I will second that motion.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
All right.
And then not in the form of a motion, but just to put a bow on it, you know, next budget workshop, specific line item, full calendar year appropriation to match the fiscal year with the more appropriate dollar amount to continue supporting the senior center.
Next up is the FEMA risk map meeting.
When was that? 2 weeks ago?
Approximately.
Approximately 2 weeks ago. I don't remember the exact date. We had that meeting scheduled with FEMA to kind of get an update on our map revisions that have been in progress for our process for like 3 years now. I think that started in 2019. Kathy and I attended their webinar, video conference call. Lenny Lane with the county was also in attendance, and then I believe after our session, they went and did one with, was it Rollins or Carbon County Commissioners? I can't remember, but they had another one for Carbon County scheduled right after us. Anyway, I just wanted to take the opportunity to update the rest of the council and the public tonight about what we learned. The long and short is the maps there've been some minor changes to the map since the last time we saw them, which were at a community meeting, open house, if you will, at the community center a year ago. And they're still in the process of evaluating maybe not evaluating, maybe not the right word, but there's certainly nothing official yet. But they're getting a lot closer, and the timeline for final approval, I believe, was Q3 of 2023. See if I can find that in here, so I'm not. Letter of final determination, fall of 2023, and then effective issuance would be spring of 2024, according to the information we got 2 weeks ago. And so what happened at our October 20th meeting was, I think we expressed some concerns about the map and requested that representatives from FEMA and or their consultants come to Saratoga to do a boots on the ground meeting and kind of roll that into maybe another stakeholder meeting that would allow them to do some more public outreach. But, my concern is that the maps are still hard in my mind to justify who's in the floodplain and who's not, especially in the lower downtown area. And so we're waiting for some feedback or to hear back from them as far as whether or not they can find the time or resources to come and honor that request to meet with us in Saratoga and look at things on the ground. Anything else?
No, they do provide links to all of the communications, everything that they ran through in the program, the changes to the map, explanations, sort of a recap of what they did last year. So it's available to review now. So you could look at that preliminary design on that map amendment. Folks in the community can check it out now. And so we sort of anticipated some questions where there's situations where it is difficult to interpret or understand why they, literally one person is in the floodplain and their neighbor is not. That kind of thing is what we're anticipating some confusion and frustration potentially. But all of that is available, and we can likely make that available on our town site, or at least the links there, or contact us. We can make sure you can get links to all of that documentation that they've provided for us.
Yeah, if we can link that, I think that'd be great. I would encourage everyone who lives in town, especially lower downtown, to look at it and see what is going to happen to your property when these new maps are released. I mean, I cannot stress that enough. But I know to find it, I can just Google Carbon County FEMA GIS, and it's like the first thing. So we'll continue to track that. And to be honest with you guys, that'll probably be something I keep my nose in as a resident, even after I'm off the council.
Okay. Any questions? Moving on to the Black Hills Energy Gas Service Replacement. This was released October 24th of this year. Said Black Hills is announcing the replacement of approximately 30 residential natural gas services and lines in Hickory Street in Saratoga. Project will begin early November with completion estimated by the end of December. Hickory Street Loop is the continuation of natural gas system work that began in 2021. During this phase, Black Hills Energy will be working in the alleyway to install new polyethylene, natural gas service lines and meters. Black Hills Energy anticipates brief outages as the switch is made from the old service to the new. We will be providing scheduling information to affected customers and coordinating with them to minimize inconveniences related to this phase of this project. Purpose of this project is to replace aging steel pipelines with new polyethylene pipe and install natural gas meters. This work is necessary to maintain safety and reliability standards. Company is contracted with NPL Construction Crews will begin restoring the travel surfaces in the alleyway as the project progresses. Drivers should exercise caution and reduce vehicle speed in the construction areas to maximize the safety of workers and pedestrians as well as themselves. The meeting contact is Lori Farkas. They do have a 24-hour media assistance and 888-242-3969. Kind of covers that. Moving on to Valley Village Childcare.
Okay, so this is an update. Last meeting, we talked about the fence play area in the park. Subsequent to that, we withdrew that request and we are now requesting permission to fence the yard. The yard fencing will be 5-foot chain link, 325 linear feet, and the total cost to us, not to you, would be about $12,000. So you have that request in writing. The other thing that he was requested to follow up on was I had reported to you that painting the building was $10.6 thousand. I have a quote for the roof, which is $43,000, not including the additional insulation that we will have to put in to facilitate fire suppression. And I did send you information that about the water in the crawl space, and we have a estimate which would have to be refined as someone goes in to do the work, somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000. Our first remodel draft has been done, and we are now in phase 2, making sure that our room sizes meet DFS requirements and how that would all roll out for snacks and bathrooms and cubby holes for the kids. Today, we received news that your town attorney is not going to negotiate on maintenance of the building going forward, and is not willing to negotiate on the liability and a complete agreement on our part that you would be relieved of any liability, and we would release you from any liability, even if you were in fault. So we are not sure how we can come back to those two particular items. So we have to do some more work to determine how we would deal with that.
So, and I talked to Jane this afternoon, and I think Patrick had been dealing with your guys' attorney.
Right.
She had just a couple comments on it. Like I said, it was just a brief conversation, but it was that I think it had to do with the indemnification on our negligence that, and we just went through this with the airport engineers. I believe that she said, some of that stuff they'd be open to talking about. And it sounded like your guys' attorney was in favor of doing a triple net lease, which includes all the maintenance stuff. But then it was, well, we don't want to do the maintenance stuff. So I don't know if there was miscommunication or whatnot there, but she did say that they had talked, and she said that part of it, and she said, as far as maintenance of the building, I mean, it ultimately comes down to the, if the council wants to do that, but they crafted that as a triple net lease. And she said, as far as like the negligent, or, if the town was negligent on something, some of that language that they're open to, but she didn't have time to give me a full download on.
Okay.
As far as the maintenance on the building, I think she said, ultimately that's the town's call, on what they want to do there. Obviously there was items you'd identified, and she said that, there willing to do whatever we want there,
Okay.
but, I think part of our deal was, we didn't really budget to do any work up there.
Right.
So.
And the total is somewhere around $90,000 to $100,000.
So I think that was kind of the big issue. And so that's probably what that communication was, is, hey, we didn't plan on doing any of this other stuff there, and we're not gonna be responsible for the maintenance of the building. So, but I think we can probably, maybe the best thing would be for us to get together with attorneys and just sit down and talk about it and kind of work through some of that stuff would be my thought.
I think the confusion about the triple net lease revolved around taxes, because what our attorney was saying is that because there are no taxes and there was no anticipation that there ever would be, that we could agree to that. So that left only the two issues of maintenance. And basically kind of where we are is, okay, we raised enough money to do the remodel, including the fire suppression and building up the code. We did not raise enough money to then go back and do the retro repairs. And that's kind of where we are. So you don't have a budget and we don't have funds. So there you go.
Yeah,
This is for comments.
go right ahead.
So this is, it kind of just keeps rolling, right? So we started talking about lease agreements and everybody was kind of thinking, well, we got the roof and we got some painting and this. And then, that seems like every other week, like now we get pictures of the
Crawl space.
basement, right? And the estimate was 30 to 50,000 and I have yet to see an estimate come in between those numbers in this community, right? They're always 50 plus. And, so my reservation is right now, none of this was budgeted for. And this council is preparing to sign leases and make agreements that commit the next council to a whole, they're gonna have 1 foot in the grave before they even get to be officers in it, right? And I'm having some serious reservations. I'm okay with continuing the conversations and approving the verbiage of the leases and settle it out. But I think it would be unfair for this council to proceed with this. And so what do we find next? So once you start tearing the roof out or the ceiling out to put the fire suppression in, what are they gonna find up there, right?
I
And
think there are two, let me,
endangered species or something.
probably, it'll be a spotted snake or something.
Yeah, probably. So I have some serious reservations and I think we just keep going farther and farther in the wrong direction. And when originally I was 100% behind this program, I still am. But I'm wondering what we're doing to the next council right now. We're signing checks and we don't have any money in the bank. And that's my biggest concern with this whole thing.
Let me just say, so the lease says, the draft says that we accept the building with these following 5 things. So that caps your issues. It was the roof, the pillars, the parking lot, the water in the crawl space, and the exterior paint. So that's the cap on what is out there. The reason, I don't know whether it's 30 or 50, I had, as a courtesy, I went and had somebody come and take a look at it. So until somebody actually goes in there and looks at it, I don't know if it's 30 or 50. So
We don't know.
I don't know.
Until we get contractors up there and.
Right. But that's not, I can't get a contractor to go up there and look at it other than as a courtesy. So that's really your call.
So my question is this wise for us to keep spending money that the next council has to find? Because I don't think we have a source for it, do we? And I don't think we have it in the bank. I'm wondering how that's gonna work.
Maybe we could find a way to raise some money and lend it to you.
We could sell our cars.
Yeah, no, I don't have a solution to that, Ron.
Yeah, and I don't either, but we're just pressing ahead without without any contingency. I don't know what the end result is going to be. As at some point, once we agree to the lease agreement, are we not locked into our commitments for the repairs and everything?
I'd have to look back at the lease for sure. I think the thing is, and like I said, I don't think they're asking for all those 5 items to be done tomorrow before they move in. Like I said, the roof, we know it's towards the end of its usable life. So if we're gonna have that building for the next 5 years, whether there's a daycare going into it or anything else, at some point that's gonna need a new roof. You know, some of the issues they've addressed, the pillars, sounds like that's kind of a easy, not very expensive fix, just take the bricks off and paint the steel, so I think the big thing is the crawl space issue. And I did talk to John Winter before he left. He did have his guys go up there to take a look at it. And now that he's gone, I'll get with John Lasco to see what they found, to see what they came up with, if they've got ideas on how to fix that. I don't know if it's work our guys can do or we need to hire someone.
Well,
there's some of that
report I
stuff.
read, it talked about the sill plates are dry rot, so that's no easy fix, right?
Yeah, and so some of it might be, we need to look at hiring a contractor to fix some of that stuff. Some of it was the grading on the outside, so there might be some stuff there we can try to do. But some of it, I think a lot of the stuff that they've identified that they would like fix, obviously we didn't budget for it, and it's going to be probably on the next council to figure out how to budget for that, and I agree with you that we'd be committing another council to those obligations. But a lot of that stuff is just routine maintenance and care of the building that if we're going to own that building for another 5 years, should be done regardless of whether there's going to be a daycare in it or not, would be my only point. Like I said, I agree with you, Ron, that I don't think we want to commit the council, a future council to, $100,000 of stuff that we didn't budget for, and setting them up for failure. But like I said, it's items that I don't think we would have known needed addressed unless the daycare went through and looked at it. So. Any other questions or thoughts for Ellie?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ellie. Okay, state of the Wyoming workers' comp report. Anything new happening there?
There's nothing new, but I do think that with the electrical panel, we should probably have that discussed during the next budget cycle, just because that'll be a lot. And then that could also be tied in with all the outlets that have to be fixed too.
Have you contacted an electrician to come take a look and see if it's an issue with the panel or what the issue is?
We had an electrician come in today.
Yeah, okay.
And then the chains on that basket were part of the issue for that report, so we are resolving issues.
Some of it, okay. Perfect. Next up is ordinance 865. I did get an email from Jane today that I forwarded to the council with a couple comments on it. I didn't have a chance to look through her comments on the. Yeah, it was sent this afternoon. I believe.
407.
Yep. So. And we can look through her comments on it and address those before final reading. This would be second reading, I believe, tonight.
Skimming this, trying to see where.
Looks like there was just a couple minor deals. There was one under 540,020.
If there was a track changes thing, I'm not seeing that through my phone. We have a version that's got what she changed.
The red line.
Readily available.
I didn't get that either.
Got a red
It's
line
redlined
down.
on yours. I didn't see it redlined on mine. So.
I don't know. I just popped it up on my computer.
What were they?
Let's see. Under, or at the bottom of page 1, under 5.40, 40.020 says no person shall engage in mobile vending within, and all her addition was the town. Just-
No objection.
Okay, B under 540.030, the last one was 1149.104, not 103. Under number H, number 3 on the same page, it says the Parks and Recreation Department approval shall not allow mobile vendors to vend in this manner past 8 PM. Her comments was, is this necessary? Does this conflict with the 10 PM curfew in the parking lot at the pools? Would there be a scenario where a truck would be set up in the parking lot until 10, but no one in the right of way would close at 8? Consider changing it to 10 possibly.
So noted. I
Um,
don't see a problem with that. Okay.
Okay, page 4. Under 5.40.060, number 1. Violations of any of the provisions of this chapter, not article.
Okay.
Page 5, letter K, just above 540.090. I don't know, she crossed out and added an and.
At that line.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that one is.
Okay.
And then under C, under 5.40.090, it says mobile vending should not be allowed within 200 feet of the property boundary of any school containing any grades kindergarten through 12. Mobile vending may be allowed on school district property with written permission from the district. Her comments were just, why is this a safety issue? What about on a weekend or otherwise allowable? Next one on page 6, under 5.40.100, A, within, on number 1 and 2, it says areas of the following locations may be designated temporary basis within the Never Forget Park and within the Hobo Pools parking lot. She had both of the within does crossed out. I think that was it.
I think with the exception of the question about 200 feet within a boundary of a school. Everything else is just minor edits. You guys want to talk about whether or not we need this provision or not? As was written, mobile vending shall not be allowed within, this is under mobile vending on private property. Mobile vending should not be allowed within 200 feet of the property boundary of any school containing any grades, kindergarten through 12th grade. Mobile vending may be allowed on school district property with written permission of the district. I don't have a good answer for why. I think this was something that came out of one of the ordinances that I borrowed language from. Thoughts either way?
But it probably has something to do with parents assuming their kids are eating the healthy meals that the school provides, and instead they're buying Taco Bell on a mobile vending deal or something, probably something like that. Could we change that where we just give the school permission to allow it within 200 feet of their boundary? That if they're going to set up a mobile vending within 200 feet of the school boundary, that they need the school's permission, and that covers both options. And it lets the school have the final say.
So the change would read mobile vending may be allowed on school district property or within 200 feet of the property boundary of any school containing grades kindergarten through 12th grade with written permission of the district.
Yep.
Is that how you want to do this for second reading?
I think that's reasonable.
I guess my question is, why would the school district have a say? Elementary schools along a retail business district, you know, if someone was gonna put it, yes,
This is again, just within private property. So it's not, it doesn't speak to any of the regulations that are specific to retail business or highway business.
well, no, the reason I bring it up is, I mean, you would have a restaurant right across from the school,
Right.
elementary school, you know, and so we're saying within 200 foot, you have to have permission of the district. I don't know why that would be included in there. Or I guess I would just be curious of why wherever you were looking at had that in there in the first place, you know.
So your recommendation would be to strike all of sentence one and just say mobile vending may be allowed on school district property with written permission of the district.
That would be my recommendation after reading it closer, after Jane brought attention to it. I guess I don't know why we would prevent someone that has a property next to it from being allowed to do something on their property that someone that's 300 foot away could do, but because they're within 200 foot, they can't. I just don't see why that would be
I
an
still think
issue.
it needs to be some kind of permission from the school if we're gonna go on school property.
Oh, on school property, I totally agree. I mean,
On school.
yeah, on school property, they have to, I would think they'd have to have permission, but within the 200 foot of it, I don't see why that would be in there.
Okay, so what's the flavor? Strike it for second reading or modify it for second reading?
I'd like to see all the modifications in place before we have a second reading.
That's what I'm doing. In the modification.
Oh, yeah, oh, that's what you're.
I'm proposing to do right.
Okay. Okay.
So which way do you want to modify it?
My opinion would be to strike the first sentence.
Okay. The modifications to the ordinance for second reading are adding the word "the" to 540.020, changing 103 to 104 under 540.030B, changing 8 PM to 10 PM under 540.030H3, changing something to chapter, what was it, section?
Article.
Article to chapter under 540.0601, striking the first sentence from 540.090C and removing the words within the from 540.100 A1 and A2.
So I looked up why the 200 feet. And it's because street vendors tend to cause traffic congestion around the schools when they're dropping off and picking up kids and loading buses.
That would make
That's
sense.
why the 200 feet.
Then I wouldn't have an issue with it. That makes sense. That makes sense. I wouldn't have an issue with that as originally written then,
So leave it in.
if it's a traffic issue.
Okay, so no modification to, second reading, no modification to 540.090C. You want to do the full second reading or third reading? Do you want to spend the 10 minutes tonight or in 2 weeks?
Whatever you guys' prerogative is, doesn't matter to me.
Not quite sure how to make the motion, but I would think that making a motion to approve as amended, is that a proper motion for that?
We've got to read it in its entirety
Okay, some-
at some
At
point.
some point,
So-
we can either do it tonight or next council meeting.
And I think we've made it very clear what the changes are from the first version. I think we've done that. However, it's probably better to do the full reading prior to the last time it's before the public, before approval. My only point. So if you want to go ahead and do it as amended for second reading tonight, I'll place it.
Blaze away, my friend.
Okay. I'll make the motion to introduce ordinance number 865 on second reading as amended.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye. Ordinance number 865, an ordinance of the town of Saratoga, Carbon County, Wyoming, amending Title V of the town of Saratoga Municipal Code regulating mobile vending within the town of Saratoga and to provide an effective date. Whereas the governing body of the town of Saratoga wishes to preserve the public peace, health, safety, and welfare of the residents of the town of Saratoga, and whereas Title V of the town of Saratoga Municipal Code concerns business licenses and regulations. And whereas the town of Saratoga Municipal Code prior to this ordinance is silent regarding the regulation of licensing of mobile vendors. And whereas the governing body of the town of Saratoga has determined it in the best interest of the citizens of the town to amend Title V of the town of Saratoga Municipal Code to include regulations and licensing of mobile vendors to preserve the public peace, health, safety, and welfare of all residents of the town of Saratoga. And whereas the governing body of the town of Saratoga has given public notice of said amendment and the ordinance has been made available for the public to review at the office of the town clerk. And now therefore be it ordained by the governing body of the town of Saratoga, Carbon County, Wyoming, that Title V of the Saratoga Municipal Code shall be amended to read as follows. Section 1, Chapter 5.40 of the Saratoga Municipal Code is hereby created to read as follows. Chapter 5.40 Mobile Vending, 5.40.010 Definition. Mobile means to move or be moved freely and easily, not affixed to the ground. Mobile vending operations are truly of a mobile nature who have the ability to routinely or regularly change locations. Mobile food vendor means an outdoor vendor operating from a mobile vehicle, trailer, or push cart licensed for use in the retail sale or service of ready-to-eat or packaged food, including a vendor operating from a mobile food truck, trailer, or push cart on which food is cooked or prepared. Mobile vending unit means any portion of a mobile vending operation in which service or activity associated with the operation is provided. This shall not include generators or other machinery exclusively used to provide power to the operation. 5.40020 mobile vending license required. No person shall engage in mobile vending within the town without first having obtained a license from the town clerk's office as provided in the section unless exempt under section 540.030. A mobile vending license shall, title 540.030 mobile vending license exemptions. A mobile vending license shall not be required for operations at and during a permit-approved special event. B, a mobile vending license shall not be required for any farmer or producer who sells or disposes of his own agricultural products, including fruits or vegetables, or of beef, mutton, or pork, provided that such meats are produced in accordance with all health regulations and laws if such merchandise is produced by him or her in the state of Wyoming, or for the delivery of any product as authorized under the Wyoming Food Freedom Act, Wyoming Statute 1149-101 through 1149-104. C, a mobile vending license shall not be required for any civic or nonprofit organization, including members of school classes, sanctioned school groups, FFA, 4-H, FHA, S Club, TAA, Theta Rho, Job's Daughters, Lions Club, Rotary Club, American Legion, and other civic nonprofit organizations. D, a mobile vending license shall not be required for individuals under the age of 18 selling lemonade, iced tea, or other flavored drink mixes. E, section 540.100 shall be waived for mobile vending units operating on CCSD number 2 grounds with written approval from CCSD 2 administration. F, subsections 540.090A and 540.090C shall be waived while mobile vending operation is under private contract for a private event and not serving the public. G, no mobile vending license shall be required for a unit which only vends from private premises in association with an approved site plan and on a site where the same or similar services or goods are also offered on a regular basis from an indoor location. H, section 540.110 may be waived if vending in right-of-way adjacent to a town park with approval from the Parks and Recreation Department of the town. 1, Parks and Recreation Department approval shall be given for specific days, dates, and times. 2, while vending within Parks and Recreation approval, mobile vending operations shall still comply with all applicable regulations of sections 540.080 and 540.090. 3, Parks and Recreation Department approval shall not allow mobile vendors to vend in this manner past 10 p.m. Period. 540-040 mobile vending license application. A, every person desiring a mobile vending license shall submit a completed mobile vending application to the town clerk's office. B, the town clerk or her designee shall review completed applications for compliance with all applicable laws and regulations enacted in the interest of the public. Application review shall be completed within 14 calendar days from the date the town accepts the application and fee. 540-050 mobile vending license fee expiration annual renewal. A, if a mobile vending license is granted, the town clerk shall collect an annual fee of $50 per mobile vending unit. B, the license shall expire on December 30th at 4:59 p.m. of each year and may be renewed annually with the submission and approval of a completed mobile vending application to the town clerk's office. 540-060 mobile vending licenses, suspension and revocation. A, mobile vending license shall be a privilege, good for the period for which it is issued, subject to the condition, however, that it may, for good cause, be suspended at any time by the town clerk and or her designee, requiring the vending to cease until the violation is resolved. Revocation may occur by action of the town council after a public hearing of which the licensee shall have not less than 10 days advance written notice in which the charges or complaints against the licensee shall be specified. Good cause shall be interpreted to include but not restricted to 1, violations of any provisions of this chapter. 2, failure to comply with agreed upon signed regulations and license requirements. 3, violations of any of the provisions of this code or other ordinances of the town or the law of the United States or the state, the violation of which reflect unfavorably on the fitness of the holder to provide services which promote the health, safety, and welfare of the public. B, any mobile vending operator or property owner that is part of an ongoing or pending violation within the town will not be allowed to operate, nor will be issued any further mobile vending licenses or any other entitlements from the town until the violation is resolved. This shall include any permits associated with a special events permit. Any person found to be in violation of this chapter should also be fined as provided in the general penalty section of the Saratoga Municipal Code. 1, this shall not include any criminal or parking violations with the police department. 540-070 license required. All mobile vendors shall maintain commercial general liability insurance with a combined single limit of $1 million per occurrence and products liability with a combined single limit of $1 million per occurrence. 540-080 general regulations and requirements. A, all mobile vending operations shall be required to have all valid and applicable licenses and approvals to provide desired service. B, any mobile vending unit shall be inspected in an appropriate manner that is approved by the Wyoming Department of Agriculture to receive a license. C, all work or inspections performed shall be done by licensed and approved contractors. This shall include propane systems and piping, fire suppression systems, fire extinguishers, and installation of new kitchen equipment. D, all mobile vending operations are required to have at least one person on site at all times while in operations that is qualified to move said operation and all units and accessories associated with the mobile vending operation. E, propane requirements. 1, all propane tanks used and associated with the mobile vending operation shall have a proper and up-to-date certification. 2, all propane tanks shall be properly secured to a mobile vending unit. 3, all propane tanks shall conform to Wyoming Department of Transportation standards and regulations. F, all access and service requirements associated with the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, shall be followed, including but not limited to the mobile truck/vendor property owner and any other use associated with the operation. G, any audio amplification used in association with a mobile vending operation should not be audible from any neighboring properties. H, all mobile vendors shall maintain a minimum of 15-foot separation from all fire hydrants and a 10-foot separation from all structures. I, no smoking shall be permitted within a mobile vending unit during operation. J, delivery operations based on a mobile vending unit shall be permitted while vending on private property. K, all mobile vending operations shall hold a valid food service permit from Wyoming Department of Agriculture, Consumer Health Services, and be registered with the Wyoming Secretary of State office if applicable. L, no mobile vendor shall discharge liquid waste, trash, or debris into sanitary sewers, storms, drains, right-of-ways, or public property. The discharge of grease under the ground or into sanitary sewers or storm drains shall be strictly prohibited. 540-090 mobile vending on private property. Operating on private property, all mobile vendors shall comply with the following standards. A, no operation of a mobile vending unit shall be permitted outside a retail business and highway business zone district. B, allow hours of operation. One, when located within 150 feet of a residential zone district, the hours of operation shall be between. Is that right? That's right, sorry. One, is that where I was? One, when located within 150 feet of a residential zone district, the hours of operation shall be between 8 AM and 8 PM. This measurement is taken from the edge of the residential zone district in a straight line to the closest point. Of the approved mobile vending location. Two, when located in excess of 150 feet from the residential zone district. This doesn't make sense.
One's within, one's outside, 150-foot buffer.
Sorry if I'm just getting myself derailed here, but under mobile vending on private property, why would it say no operation of a mobile vending unit shall be permitted outside of a retail business and highway zone district?
Because it's in the middle of a neighborhood.
I would think because food service like that,
You guys not,
Restaurant.
does it not sound weird to you? Does that not seem like a conflict? Okay, I'm gonna keep rolling.
Operation of the mobile
So-
vending unit shall be permitted outside of, it does sound odd, because
It's like
that's happening
You're
today.
talking about how to permit it on private property, and then the first thing says
In
you
front of
can't,
retail.
you can't permit it outside of retail business and highway business. That's correct. That's correct, because of the other exemptions. I'm sorry, I'm getting unwound. This is right. Okay, sorry. B1, when located within 150 feet of a residential zone district, the hours of operation shall be between 8 AM and 8 PM. This measurement is taken from the edge of the residential zone district in a straight line to the closest point of the approved mobile vending location. 2, when located in excess of 150 feet from a residential zone district, the hours of operation shall be between 7 AM and 10 PM. This measurement is taken from the edge of the residential zone district in a straight line to the closest point of the approved mobile vending location. C, mobile vending shall not be allowed within 200 feet of the property boundary of any school containing any grades, kindergarten through 12th grade. Mobile vending may be allowed on the school district property with written permission of the district. D, the vending operation shall not be detrimental to the property or improvements in the surrounding area or to the public health, safety, or general welfare. E, any temporary signage shall conform to the standards of Saratoga Municipal Code, Chapter 1863. I think I'm running out of steam. And be removed outside hours of operation and shall not be located within the town right away.
You want me to continue?
Sure, thank you.
F, vending operations shall not violate any prior approvals or which they are operating. G, vending on private property shall not exist any permits or approval such as food service or fire prevention. H, all units used or associated with the vending operation shall be located so as not to interfere with the normal operations of any permanent use located on the property. I, off-street parking shall be adequate to accommodate both permanent use and the vending operation. J, location of the vending operation and all units associated with such shall not impede required fire access lanes, accessible routes, setbacks on the property, or clear vision triangles. K, mobile vending operation shall have proper authorization to use property. L, suitable receptacles for litter recycling shall be located on site or on vehicle and not located within the city right of way. M, no unit used or item associated with the vending operation shall impede city right of way, including sidewalks. N, there shall be a maximum of one mobile vendor per lot without an approval special events permit. O, flashing or strobe lights associated with mobile unit shall not be permitted. 540-100, mobile vending on public property. Mobile vending may be permitted within public property at specific locations and during times when the Town of Saratoga Streets Department designates public parking spaces for the specific purpose of mobile vending use on a temporary basis. The use of such areas shall be on a first-come basis. No vending shall be permitted within public property other than within a posted area. A, areas within the following locations may be designated for mobile vending use on a temporary basis. 1, Never Forget parking lot. 2, Hobo Pools parking lot. B, the hours of operation shall be between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. C, any temporary signage shall conform to the standards of Saratoga Municipal Code, Chapter 18.63, and be removed outside hours of operation and shall not be located within the town right of way. D, vending on public property shall not exempt the operator from any permits or approvals such as food service or fire prevention. E, all units used or associated with the vending operation shall be located so as not to interfere with the normal operations of any permanent use located on the property. F, the location of the vending operation and all units associated with such shall not impede required fire access lanes, accessible routes, setbacks on the property, or clear vision triangles. L, suitable receptacles for litter recycling shall be located on site or on vehicle and not located within the city right of way. M, no unit used or item associated with the vending operation shall impede city right of way, including sidewalks. O, flashing or strobe lights associated with mobile unit shall not be permitted. 540-110, mobile vending within town right of way. No vending shall be permitted within town right of way. Section 2, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its approval, passage, and adoption date. So we passed on second reading this first day of November 2022.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a quick question. I was curious when you were talking about the meat vendors I understand under that farm. Yeah. You simply said pork, beef, and mutton, I think. No others, I don't know, chicken, rabbits, anything? I mean, is there any other way to describe meat vending? It's just a curious question.
The language came out of the Food Freedom Act, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for taking over, Leroy.
Okay, next up is the Deputy County Emergency Management position. I think this was asked to be put back on the agenda so we could discuss it after Lenny's presentation.
Yeah, just for next COG meeting, which is November. Sixteenth, I believe. Any further feedback for me? If you recall, there were kind of two different cost structures. What I heard at the meeting and after the meeting was support. But if you guys have any further thoughts for me to take to COG, I'm assuming it will be discussed by the next meeting.
It's just a fair percentage thing for me, just to make sure it's across the board. We're not spending as much as Rollins.
So were you more in favor of the option that
Split
with the
Equally
remaining 8 by 9 or by population?
However that washes out,
Either way.
split, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I'd be interested just to know what the other municipalities
Looks like,
think.
yeah.
I think
Definitely report.
in favor of it, for sure, because I think there's a huge benefit there for all the communities, but, I mean, it'd be, based on what they're wanting to do, but I didn't have a huge heartburn one way or another. I mean, one's cost $10,000 more, I think.
Okay, well, I will pledge Saratoga support for that concept and report back as to what the favorable split is from the other communities in our December meeting. Thank you.
All right, next up is bank reconciliations. I think we kind of touched on that already.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to police department.
Well, now we got Jen Anderson up in the list. She's going through the dispatcher basics. She'll be back this weekend. We're still ironing out some of the wrinkles with the Spillman and Digiticket, but other than that, we're moving along pretty good along as far as that goes. And that's really all I got.
Chief, what kind of wrinkles, I mean, what is it doing?
So you're always gonna have some little deal that comes up, that doesn't work. You have to go back in there, you know, and then get a hold of IT. They gotta go and fix it, or where we're on another server, there's a lot of, natures that's not in there, like dog tags or stuff like that. That we have to go back and add, but other than that, it's just a matter of adding stuff in as we go that we don't have, or it's just been an oversight. But other than that, everything's been going pretty good.
And last week, we talked about that truck at the dollar store. Did you happen to have any contact with, anybody, have any conversation?
No, we've been constantly down in there. Normally, we've been pretty good about getting them to park parallel, you know, facing west along there and unloading. Every once in a while, there's that one guy that shows up and he thinks he needs to back into the street. And I don't understand that, but he was just backing in the other day. I happened to be going down to the post office on my day off. I went over and had him move it, but it's just, there's that guy. It's, you know, and he's been cited before. Usually if we catch them, we can get them before they start unloading. And that's the way that building is designed, and they do have the equipment, they can pull parallel, and those rollers are curved so that they can unload around the corner, right? You know, that, I think it's just laziness.
Thank you.
You ready to get the laziness?
If we created nature in this new system, we could.
Moving on to fire department, nothing to report there. Well, one thing we are, on our ISO stuff, we did get them, our ladder testing, our hose testing, and our pump testing information. So, we should be finding out if we're maintaining our current ISO rating there. So, if I hear back on that, I'll report back. Recreation department.
I'll start with my department report. We will be closed at the gym on November 11th for Veterans Day. And we are hosting our first pickleball clinic on Saturday, November 12th from 10 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. I have about 6 spaces left. And it's $20 per participant and the equipment is provided. And pickleball coach from Laramie named Michael Day coming over to provide that for us. For our youth activities, I'm working with the program that we have set in play for our online registration to better utilize all of the features. I believe that we can get some better scheduling going, rosters, better reporting for the Treasury Department. And we're looking for extending some ideas through Christmas break and working with the community center to possibly use the theater for some movie time. The Recreation Commission Board has our next meeting on Monday, September 7th at 6:30 or at 6 p.m. We will also have a public workshop Monday, November 7th at 6:30, where we'll discuss the results of the survey that we have put out and get public input on to help set goals for the Saratoga Recreation Department and increase engagement through volunteer opportunities. One note is that I will be gone and out of the office on November 15th and November 16th, so I will miss the next council meeting. Inside your council packet, you have a special events permit. That is for December hot chocolate run. We have talked about it a couple different times at our rec board meetings in order to get this approved 30 days prior to the event, which we are looking at hosting on December 3rd. I need to submit it today. We have a rec board meeting on the 7th to finalize plans to make sure we are going to go through with this, but just looking to get that special events application approved at this time if we move forward with that event.
Make the motion to approve the special events application for the hot chocolate run contingent upon department head approvals and concurrence to proceed by the rec board.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that's all I have currently.
What'd you say about movie night?
Movie night.
No.
Hoping to use the community center gym to start some movie days in December to kind of get the Christmas cheer going, provide some activities for the youth during Christmas break and during Fridays that they're out of school. Just to kind of keep moving that direction on providing activities for the youth.
Something I've just thought about in passing before is sponsoring, you know, whatever it costs to get a movie licensed for public display. There's some fee, right?
Yeah, it's per movie. There's a fee per movie.
When you find out what that is, let me know.
Depends on the movie you show. It's anywhere from $30 to $500.
Okay. Well, if that's something that could raise some good money for the rec program, to have the cost of the movie paid for and then, you know, $2 a ticket or whatever you guys decide on. Let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else for Rick? Yeah, move on to Department of Public Works. First up is work order 2204A. And this is regarding additional construction services for the Spring Ave Utility and Street Improvement Project. And I believe Josh had sent yeah, it's for an additional 15 days. Based on their count, they provided 51 inspection days as of yesterday. And their original work order assumed about 49. So this will add for an additional 15 inspection days. And he just wanted to use this as a starting point. We can revisit in a few weeks if they can, or if the water line's completed. So
this was obviously talked about at the workshop we had. And I did send your email, Josh's email, to the Joint Powers Board. I got feedback from 2 members that this is what we talked about and something we gotta do. So,
Yeah, I agree with it. I do think that we need to be watchful for delays caused by errors and omissions in the drawings and in the design, right? Something that out of the town's hand and basically part of the design itself. So, but other than that, I'm in agreement with it.
I'll make the motion to approve work order 2204A.
Second,
all in favor?
aye. You want the rest of the report?
That's, I was gonna say, did Chuck email you too?
I got everything right there.
From Chuck and John?
Give a report, yeah.
Go right ahead.
So, in the last week or so, they've hauled a bunch of topsoil, up and put it at the tip. And while they were there were some complaints from the neighbors about all the piles out there. So the crews went up, addressed the area up and made it look more presentable. And I haven't heard back from any of the neighbors, but, they made an effort to make that, or address that area up. They put some snow fence up at Kathy Glow Park and they've winterized the bathrooms at that park and at the lake. And then they're winterized the bathroom out here alongside the town hall, but they put heaters in there and that bathroom will stay open for the winter. They blew out all the sprinkler systems. They have one left. And that's the, I'm trying to read my notes here. I'll come to it. But anyway, they've blown the sprinkler systems out, including the baseball diamond. They shut off water out the lake and winterized that one out there. And then they've been patching potholes throughout the street. They have in their, the next week, they'll be getting the hot bucks out and patching some holes out at the lake road, and they're going to do some more patching at the Saratoga Inn. They finished the water line service at Hickory for Brush Creek, and they cleaned out the hot pool. They do have one tap right now that's, they're doing the preliminary work, groundwork and getting ready to install it. They're going to remove the fencing around the trees at the lake. They had a environmentalist tell them that those trees were big enough that we could remove that fencing out there now without risk of damage from the wildlife. And they're installing the plows and salt boxes on the pickup and also doing some winterizing for on the other vehicles, making sure they're ready to go. Water and sewer, they're doing their daily rounds at the lagoon and at the wells. They've been doing some locates and some service calls. They did install a 6-inch meter at the trailer park, and they've been assisting the contractor with the 10-inch water main shutdown. I believe that's the one on River Street here. They replaced the processor tank at the dry well at the lagoons, and they sent in their lead and copper sulfate or copper samples to the lab for review. And that's pretty much it on the report. We do have some orders, material that would like to get ordered. Creed, I followed up the last council meeting. All we approved was the listing, the man basket. We asked John to look into grants. I did talk to him before he left, and he said he could not find any grants. And we talked about if we couldn't find grants, we would proceed to purchase those lifting chains. So the lifting chains, the total cost is $3,774.70. And then I put in a shipping charge in there, so it comes out right at $4,000. In addition, the water and sewer department, they need a supply of bisulfite, and some chlorine. The bisulfite comes in drums. And as discussed, the shipping on 4 drums is expensive, but it's exactly the same price as shipping 2 drums. So I think from a financial standpoint, we can save ourselves $600 if we go ahead and get the 4 drums. And then the chlorine, there'll be 4 tanks of that. So total cost with the lifting chains, the bisulfite, and the chlorine, including shipping, is $8,221, which is what I'm asking the council for approval to buy.
Where is it in the budget?
So the chlorine and the bisulfite are in the budget. They're a regular consumable that we have out there. The lifting chains are part of the workman's comp. It's requirements from the inspection, and as was that basket that we did last week. So we'll have to find that in the budget.
The lifting chains were approved already as well. The lifting chains were approved a month ago.
They were already approved because I read through the meeting minutes to make sure they were approved last week, and it wasn't.
It's not in last week. It was a month ago that they were
Was it?
approved.
Okay, so we're good there. So that'll change this. It'll end up being $4,225 or $21, including shipping for the bisulfite and the chlorine.
That's budgeted.
Yes.
That's budgeted.
That is budgeted.
Okay.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And Georgia, I'll get you your paperwork once I clean it up a little bit.
Okay. Anything else for Public Works? One thing I think we probably should discuss is moving forward with that position. Do we want to start advertising for it? I know there's been some discussion but I think it probably is worth revisiting the job description for that position. Do we want to wait and elections are next week, see how the elections turn out and ask the future incoming council their opinion on job description, what they envision. Like I said, they'll be the ones inheriting if we do hire someone. What's the council's recommendation or opinion on that? Is it to wait until after the election to discuss with the future incoming council, or do we want to advertise? What are we wanting to do?
I would think that we should at least get the input from the incoming council of mayor. That's not an appointed position, it's an at will. And so whoever they hire, we have to live with for a while, right? So I think the choice needs to be carefully made and considered.
Okay, well, we'll wait and we'll see how elections turn out and invite the future incoming council to weigh in on that. Okay, moving on to reports from boards and commissions, Community Center Joint Powers Board.
I don't have anything to report. Our next meeting is the 14th, 4:30.
Okay, Water and Sewer Joint Power Board.
No report. Next meeting is November 9th, 6 p.m. at PCC.
Okay, Planning Commission, nothing to report there. Our next meeting is November 8th at 5:30 here at Town Hall Chambers. Saratoga Airport Advisory Board.
Some of these I've seen and some of these I have not, but the first one would be the DBT Transportation Services Agreement. You've heard me speak on this one before. This is just the automated airport weather station. It's a 3-year service agreement, and it's the same company that we've always used, so. And we need to have it signed. I think it was from YDOT who sent that they need this service agreement ASAP.
Okay, is there a motion?
Did the fee go up?
Have to look at our old agreement.
I think it went up quite a bit, it looks like. I don't remember it being this much.
It went up slightly, but I don't remember. Someone else mentioned that the fee did go up slightly, but everything else stayed the same.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
All in favor?
Okay, the final airport expansion final construction report. If this has any money required, it's the signature of the mayor to wrap up the project final on the apron project.
Yeah, and Dave did send a note with the email with some of this. See if I can find it. Said that's where numerous documents requiring signature. All items been signed numerous times for grant applications and previous closeout reports, but we have to include them every time. The sponsor certifications and the grant conditions page are for inclusion in the apron expansion final report. We're wrapping this up now because we were waiting for the entrance road and parking area project to be completed so we could prepare and route for approvals for the airport layout plans sheets once, rather than circulating them for the apron project and having to turn around and do it again for the parking area project.
Make a motion to allow the mayor to sign the construction project final acceptance airport improvement program sponsor certification.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Continuing to wrap up this project, drug-free workplace airport improvement program sponsor certification. Same thing, same project, and just have the mayor sign that just U.S. Department of Transportation FAA requirement on the project.
Make a motion, the mayor's sign.
Where you seeing that number?
Isn't that what this is? Oh, I'm.
Drug-free.
Oh, okay, then I rewrite revise my motion. And sign the drug case.
Report improvement.
There.
All in favor?
Okay, so another one for the airport apron. It's another signature required by the FAA. The mayor to sign. It's the equipment and construction contracts, airport improvement sponsor certification.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye. Next is for Silver Apron, final projects, construction reports. I need mayor to sign the project plans and specifications, airport improvement program sponsor certification.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Real property acquisition, airport improvement program sponsor certification, still on the apron project.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selection of consultants, to airport improvement program sponsor certification on the apron, need the mayor's signature.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, certification and disclosure regarding potential conflicts of interest, airport improvement program sponsor certification, another signature required by the mayor by the FAA.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Certification regarding lobbying needs a signature by the mayor. These are all final apron construction report contracts.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Required statements for the airport improvement program projects.
Motion.
Signature for the mayor. Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
another signature required by the mayor for the certification for contracts, grants, loans, and cooperative agreements.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then a signature by the mayor for the final construction report, the apron expansion project.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then I have ASA 004 B and D requesting a final payout. Amount due to the contractor's assessment is $2,402,785.69. Oh, it's not final because it's only 92% complete, but it's almost complete with the payments. This is not the amount we do. This is the overall amount that's still due, and we have our portion, but I don't see that breakdown.
So this is where one of their line items was remove a plaque in Canada.
Yep,
Um,
but it was gonna be $5,000.
that's 0%.
And that was the question I was asking earlier, is if it's included in the contract, why is it an extra? But that's not out there.
I don't believe they relocated the signs either.
Haven't billed for that.
Yeah.
Make the motion to approve and pay estimate number 2 for Kilgore Companies in the amount of $242,785.69.
Second.
All in favor?
And then Sage Civil Engineering invoice number 3450 in the amount of $33,377.27 And this is for the entrance road and parking area improvement project. The final walkthrough with the FAA and YDOT is scheduled at 2:30 on November 7th.
Motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
And when the entrance road gets wrapped up, then we switch over entirely to Armstrong Engineering.
Thank you.
The next one is for straight stripe painting. The amount of $27,324.99.
Motion.
All in favor?
I really don't have anything else other than you can see that the entrance road is wrapping up. Like I said, the walkthrough is on Monday with the final inspection. My next meeting is November 14th at 3:30 here at Town Hall.
Thanks, Jeroen. Moving on to swims.
Good evening. We have two items. First is just a reminder, we have a education funding opportunity for anybody in the Schwimm service area. Schwimm's has offered to sponsor two people through an EMT class. The class is entirely online. They have to do certain modules. They can do it at their own pace, days, nights, weekends, whenever they're free. They have a year to complete that class. In return, we're asking for 1 year of volunteer service, which is 30 hours per month and or one transport per month. So just trying to put out some more options there for folks who may not be able to take a traditional EMT class. So far, we have only one application for those two spots. So if you know anybody that may be interested, definitely spread the word. Our application is due November 8th, so we can get that rolling. The second item before you is a resolution to apply for some grant funding. The state of Wyoming had $15 million given to them to stabilize EMS. $5 million of that went to EMS stabilization funding that the Wyoming Hospital Association is working on currently. $10 million went into a grant program, and the state said, let's figure out how we can stabilize EMS long-term. How can we use this funding to not just give cash infusions to EMS agencies, but how can we create a more sustainable EMS into the future? With that $10 million, the state came up with a grant program that says we're to investigate alternative options for EMS that improve access to services, improve efficiency, and reduce cost. This grant is due 11/18 of 22, so again, a really tight turnaround window. They announced this October 6th. We took it to our joint council board and came up with kind of a two-pronged approach to this grant to apply for. So first would be funding to hold EMR classes in the encampment community and Medicine Bow. This would be 8 7-hour days. We could do that class in 1 month, basically 1 month of weekends. It's much shorter than an EMT class, but it gets some, basic first aid out there. They can use an AED, they can use, CPR, stop the bleed, those kind of skills in those communities that just have no coverage right now. And then the second piece to this would be to purchase 2 SUV style vehicles and actually reduce our fleet size from 6 ambulances to 4 ambulances and 2 quick response vehicles, 1 in encampment, 1 in Medicine Bow. These would be equipped with monitors that we already have, some first aid supplies, the Lucas, the little thumper machine, suction, some of those really critical items. If we can get those on scene fast with somebody who's trained to use them and stabilize somebody until we can get an ambulance on scene. A couple pieces to this and kind of our why. So a study was performed in 2017 of Schwimm's, and the study found that the current EMS system design is inefficient, it's unsustainable, and may not meet the needs of local citizens. And it may be out of compliance with state requirements, which I believe at periods it probably was. So what that means is our ambulances, if we have an ambulance, we're required to stock it to a certain minimum. The state has pretty extensive lists of minimums that we have to have on there. All of them are licensed at a paramedic level, so it means we have to have cardiac medications, we have to have ET tubes, we have to have all these things, even if there's not a provider that lives in that area. So we could have an ambulance setting an encampment, which we do now, that's stocked with all these things that I don't have even a provider there to use. So we end up throwing a lot of that away just because it expires. Our annual cost is about $5,000 a year in disposable supplies per ambulance. So if we can change our vehicle style, now it's not an ambulance and we don't have to stock it to that ALS level of care. And we can stock it with things that are, I guess, more appropriate for that service level. So let's say in encampment, we only have an EMT, we can stock it with EMT equipment. We don't have to stock it with advanced level equipment if we only can provide an EMT level of service, if that makes sense. Elk Mountain is another community we could expand this program into in the future. We have one EMT there currently. A lot of calls in some of these communities could be responded to with an SUV. They can figure out, hey, there's no need for an ambulance, a transport unit, and cancel and keep our ambulance in service. We can always do something like they get there and they see that, oh, we do need a helicopter, and we can keep that asset coming or launch that asset and get it there faster than waiting 20, 30 minutes for an ambulance to get on scene and make that determination. Do you have any questions about the grant program? We're asking for about $165,000. This would cover, like I said, everything from the instructors to teach EMR classes, books, everything would be 100% covered through this grant program. So it's a pilot program. If we decide that this doesn't work, we can always, go back to the drawing board, figure something else out. Or we can keep doing the same thing that we're doing now, just begging for people and trying to provide a level of service that I don't know if we'll ever be able to obtain. So
The SUVs, is that in use somewhere else right now?
no, these would be brand new vehicles.
What I mean is this a prototype program or are there other communities already using that?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of communities have what they call a quick response vehicle or a fly car. So it would be designed very similar to that kind of a style. And sometimes cities put a critical care paramedic or something like that on it, where they don't need a whole ambulance, but just that one person to get there. So yeah, it is a model used all across the nation. Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions for Satan? Yeah. I'll read resolution number 2022-12, a resolution authorizing the submission of a Wyoming Department of Health EMS regionalization pilot project grant on behalf of the South Central Wyoming Emergency Medical Services for the purpose of education of EMS personnel and 2 quick response vehicles. Whereas South Central Wyoming Emergency Medical Services Joint Powers Board desires to participate in the Wyoming Department of Health Public Health Division Office of Emergency Medical Services EMS Regionalization Pilot Project Grant Program to assist in financing this request. And whereas the South Central Wyoming Emergency Medical Services Joint Powers Board recognizes the need for the request. And whereas the Wyoming Department of Health Public Health Division Office of Emergency Medical Services program requires that certain criteria be met as described in the WDH rules and regulations, coronavirus, state and local fiscal recovery funds, and the United States Department of Treasury governing the program. And to the best of our knowledge, this application meets those criteria. And whereas participating in the program would add value to the South Central Wyoming Emergency Medical Services, provide education to additional staff members, decrease response times to outlying areas, and increase access to emergency medical services. Be it resolved, we, the participating agencies of the South Central Wyoming Emergency Medical Services, grant authorities to participate in the State of Wyoming Department of Health Public Health Division Office of Emergency Medical Services EMS Regionalization Pilot Project Grant Program. accepting grant monies offered and all other necessary requirements to fulfill this grant process. Now therefore, Saratoga, Wyoming resolves to participate in the State of Wyoming Department of Public Health Division Office of Emergency Medical Services, EMS, Regionalization Pilot Project Grant Program, passed and adopted this first day of November 2022.
Motion to approve resolution 2022-12.
A second with an amendment to the resolution before being published. And the-
Go ahead.
Third sentence down in the middle.
Third sentence.
Yeah. Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any other questions about South Central Wyoming EMS? Is there anything else I can answer? Thank you guys so much for your time.
Okay, any new business? Is there a motion to enter executive session?
Make a motion to enter executive session to discuss personnel matters of litigation in accordance with Wyoming Statute 16-4-405A2 and 3.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? We'll be out in a little bit.
No.
Okay, is there a motion to exit executive session?
I move to exit executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any further business?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourns at 9:27. The next town council meeting will be on Tuesday, November 15th at 6 o'clock with a public hearing for liquor licenses at 5:30.
Do you take verbal RSVPs?